Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
This book tells the story of the 100 Years' War. It was a very long and famous conflict between the kingdoms of England and France. This war lasted for over 100 years and changed Europe. Many brave knights, smart plans, and big battles happened during this time. The 100 Years' War had three main parts. First was the Edwardian phase. During this time, important leaders like King Edward III and his son, known as the Black Prince, fought many battles. English archers became very famous for their skills. Next came the Carolingian phase. In this part, the war continued with different leaders and new ways of fighting. It was a time of back and forth, with France trying to get its lands back. The last part was the Lancastrian phase. Here, King Henry V of England made big wins. But then, a young girl named Joan of Arc became a hero for France. She helped France fight back and win many important battles. We will learn about great battles like Crécy, Poitiers, and Agincourt. We will also discover how Joan of Arc saved the city of Orléans. These events shaped history and made both England and France stronger countries. 2. The war starts. The 100 Years' War began for deep reasons. English kings held lands in France, like Gascony. They were vassals to the French king for these lands, which was a difficult situation. Gascony was rich from wine trade, and its people felt more loyal to England than France. In 1328, the French king, Charles IV, died without a son. Edward III of England was Charles's nephew. However, French lords used Salic law, an old rule, to prevent Edward from taking the throne, because he was related through his mother. So, Philip of Valois became King Philip VI of France. Edward III accepted this at first. But problems grew when Edward welcomed Robert d'Artois, a French count seen as a criminal by Philip VI. This angered Philip. On May 24, 1337, King Philip VI declared Edward's lands in Aquitaine no longer English. This act started the 100 Years' War. The first part of the war, the Edwardian phase, began with French attacks on Gascony. King Edward III went to Flanders to find allies. In January 1340, he claimed to be king of both England and France. He also used chevauchés, quick raids, to burn towns and farms to weaken France. A major sea battle happened at Sluys. French ships had been raiding English towns. King Edward gathered a new fleet. Philip VI sent his large fleet to Sluys to block Edward's allies. On June 24, 1340, Edward attacked the French fleet. Though the French had many ships, their commanders did not know much about fighting at sea. English longbowmen fired many arrows. Then English soldiers boarded the French ships. England won a huge victory, sinking about 190 French ships and killing thousands of men. England lost very few. This victory gave England control of the sea. The war also spread to Brittany. In 1341, Duke John III of Brittany died without a son. Two men wanted to be duke: John of Montfort, supported by England, and Charles of Blois, supported by France. This started a civil war in Brittany. John of Montfort took many places, but the French army later captured him. His wife, Jane of Flanders, continued the fight and asked England for help. King Edward III saw this as a chance for another front. English soldiers arrived in 1342. Edward himself came and led small attacks. A truce was agreed in December 1342, but the civil war in Brittany continued for years, becoming a smaller fight within the bigger war between England and France. 3. A famous English victory. English soldiers began a new type of attack called a chevauchée. These were quick raids into French lands. The English army would burn farms, houses, and food. They destroyed everything to hurt the French king and his people, showing they could not be protected. These raids also helped the English army get food and money. In July 1346, King Edward III landed in Normandy with a large army. They marched, burning towns and stealing goods, making many French people scared. The English army moved inland, then turned north. King Philip VI of France gathered a large army to stop them. On August 26, 1346, the two armies met near Crécy. Edward III placed his smaller English army on a hill, using the high ground. His army had many skilled longbowmen, famous for their powerful bows and sharp arrows. The French army was much bigger, with thousands of mounted knights and crossbowmen. The French knights were eager to fight and charged first. But the English longbowmen shot thousands of arrows. Their arrows flew far and fast, hitting the French knights and their horses. French crossbowmen could not shoot as well or as fast. The French knights charged again and again, but each time they met a wall of arrows and sharp stakes. Horses fell, and men in heavy armor were killed. Edward III's young son, the Black Prince, fought bravely. By day's end, the French army was destroyed. The English won a great victory with few losses. Over 10,000 French soldiers died, including many nobles, while less than 100 English soldiers did. After this big win, the English army marched north to the important port town of Calais. King Edward III wanted Calais as a gateway to France for landing armies and supplies. He began a long siege. English ships brought food and supplies. The French king tried to relieve the siege, but the English army was too strong. After almost a year, Calais had no food left. On August 3, 1347, the town surrendered. Calais would stay English for over 200 years, a key foothold. Both England and France were tired from the war. Then a terrible sickness arrived, the Black Death. This plague spread quickly, first in France, then England, killing millions. Many cities and villages lost half their people. Farmers died, and trade stopped. Because of this disaster, both sides stopped fighting. They needed to recover from the great loss of life and money. In 1350, King Philip VI died. His son, Jean II, became the new king of France. The war was paused, but not over. 4. The king is captured. After the plague, the war started again. Prince Edward, also known as the Black Prince, led new English attacks deep into France. In September 1355, he took his army from Bordeaux. They rode through the land, burning farms and towns, leaving a path of destruction. This method was called a chevauchée. The goal was to destroy French lands and weaken the French king's power and income. Many towns and villages suffered greatly from these raids. The prince's army destroyed hundreds of settlements, stealing goods and food. In 1356, the Black Prince began another destructive raid, moving his forces further northeast. King Jean II of France gathered a large army to stop him, and the prince knew he had to get back to friendly territory. But King Jean's army was fast and soon caught up. A big battle was unavoidable. The Battle of Poitiers took place in September 1356. The English army had about 6,000 soldiers, with many famous longbowmen. King Jean II had a much larger army, with many thousands of knights. The French king asked the Black Prince to give up, but the prince said no. The French knights charged first, but English arrows caused much damage. Many French soldiers and their horses fell. The English archers shot many arrows, making it hard for the French to fight. Even the French king himself joined the fight with his soldiers. The battle was long and hard. At one point, English soldiers found a way to attack the French from behind. The French army broke apart. King Jean II was surrounded by English soldiers. He did not want to surrender to common men. Then a noble English knight, the Earl of Warwick, came and formally took King Jean prisoner. The English had won another great victory. They lost only a few hundred men, but the French lost thousands, including many important nobles. After this big defeat, France faced many serious problems. The government was weak, and armed groups of soldiers and bandits, known as free companies, roamed the countryside. High taxes were needed to pay for the war and the huge ransoms for captured nobles, including the king. These taxes made the poor people of France very angry, leading to a large peasant revolt called the Jacquerie. To bring some peace, France signed the Treaty of Brittany in October 1360. This treaty gave England a lot of land in France, including the large region of Aquitaine and the important port of Calais. The English king, Edward III, also agreed to stop saying he was King of France. In return, France had to pay a very large sum of money for King Jean II to be released and return home. King Jean II went back to France for a short time. However, one of his sons, who was also a prisoner, escaped. To keep his word and honor, King Jean decided to return to England as a prisoner. He died there in 1364 while still in English captivity. His son, Charles V, became the new King of France. The Treaty of Brittany ended the first part, or phase, of the Long War. 5. France's New Hope. After the Treaty of Brittany, King Jean II of France was a prisoner. He later died in English captivity in the year 1364. His son, Charles V, became the new King of France. This marked the second part of the war, known as the Carolingian phase. France now had a new hope. King Charles V was a smart ruler. He learned from past French defeats in big battles like Crécy and Poitiers. He knew that open battles often ended badly for French knights against English archers. So, Charles V decided to change France's war strategy. Instead of large armies and big battles, he chose to use smaller, faster groups of soldiers. These groups would avoid direct fights with large English forces. Their goal was to slowly take back French lands and castles. They would wear down the English over time. A key person in this new French strategy was Bertrand du Guesclin. He was not a high-born noble, but a skilled soldier from Brittany. Du Guesclin had become famous as a leader of small fighting groups, especially in Brittany. He was very good at surprise attacks and knowing the land. King Charles V saw his talent and made him Constable of France. This was a very important military job. Du Guesclin's leadership helped France win important smaller fights, like the Battle of Cocherel in 1364. This victory helped King Charles V gain more power in Normandy. The war also spread to Spain. There was a civil war in the Kingdom of Castile. King Pedro of Castile was allied with England and the Black Prince. But King Charles V of France supported Pedro's half-brother, Henry of Trastamara. France sent Du Guesclin and his soldiers to help Henry. The Black Prince also led English forces into Spain to support King Pedro. After some battles, Henry of Trastamara won and became the new King of Castile. This was a big win for France because Castile then became an ally against England. The Castilian navy was now ready to help France. This new alliance proved very important at sea. In the year 1372, an English fleet led by the Earl of Pembroke sailed towards La Rochelle. They were bringing soldiers and supplies to Aquitaine. But a Castilian fleet allied with France was waiting. The Castilian ships were smaller and faster galleys. They attacked the English ships. The battle lasted for some time. The Castilians used oil and flaming arrows against the English ships. Many English soldiers were burned or drowned. The English fleet was largely destroyed, and Pembroke was captured. This naval victory at La Rochelle was a big loss for England. It ended England's strong control of the seas that it had since the Battle of Sluys. It also meant that England found it harder to send help to its lands in France. The French strategy was starting to work, slowly turning the tide of the war. 6. The war comes again.
After many years of fighting in France, important changes happened in England and France. In 1376, the Black Prince, Edward III's son, died after a long illness. He was a famous warrior. 1 year later, in 1377, King Edward III also died. He had been king for 50 years and had led England to many victories.
His grandson, Richard II, became the new king, but he was very young. England soon faced its own problems. People were tired of the war and high taxes. In 1381, a new tax caused many farmers and common people to rise up. This was known as the Peasants' Revolt. Leaders like Wat Tyler led thousands of people to London. They demanded changes from King Richard II. Though the revolt was eventually stopped and its leaders were killed, it showed deep unhappiness in England. For a period, the big battles between England and France stopped. They agreed to truces, which meant less fighting for a time. But small clashes continued. Meanwhile, France had a new problem. Their king, Charles VI, became mentally ill. He often had strange ideas, like believing he was made of glass. He could not rule the country well. Because their king was sick, powerful French nobles began to fight for control. Two main groups started a bitter struggle: the Armagnacs and the Burgundians. This fight turned into a full civil war. It divided France and made the country weak for many years. This internal conflict made it hard for France to be a strong, united kingdom. In England, the royal family changed. King Henry IV died in 1413, and his son became King Henry V. Henry V was a strong and serious leader. He was also a skilled soldier. He believed England had a right to large parts of France. Seeing France divided by its own civil war, King Henry V decided it was the right time to restart the fight. He planned a large invasion, bringing the war back in a big way. 7. A girl saves France. King Henry V of England invaded France in 1415. He wanted to take back lands that England once held. Henry led a large army to the port town of Harfleur. This was a very important city for controlling the area. The English began a long siege to capture it. The town had strong defenses, and the French soldiers fought bravely. The siege lasted for 6 weeks. During this time, many English soldiers became sick with diseases like malaria. Finally, on September 23rd, Harfleur surrendered to the English king. After Harfleur, Henry's army marched toward Calais. On October 25, 1415, they met a much larger French army near a village called Agincourt. The French nobles were eager to fight. However, the battlefield was a muddy, recently plowed field. The English longbowmen used their powerful bows and the difficult terrain to their advantage. The French knights struggled to charge through the thick mud, making them easy targets. The English won a famous and devastating victory, with many French nobles killed or captured. Following this great win, England continued to conquer more French territory. Normandy came under English control. By 1420, the situation in France was very bad. The French king Charles VI was unwell, and there was a civil war among French nobles. On May 21, 1420, a significant agreement was made. It was called the Treaty of Troyes. This treaty stated that Henry V would become the next king of France. He also married King Charles VI's daughter, Catherine. Their child would inherit the crowns of both England and France, creating a dual monarchy. But France found a new and unexpected hope. Both Henry V and King Charles VI died in 1422. Their infant son, Henry VI, became the king of both countries. However, French forces loyal to Charles VII, the Dauphin, the French prince, still held lands south of the Loire River. A young farm girl named Joan of Arc believed God had given her a special task. She felt called to save France. Her mission was to lift the siege of Orléans and ensure Charles VII was crowned king in Reims. The English army was attacking Orléans, a vital French city. Its fall would have been a major blow to French hopes. Joan traveled to Chinon to meet the Dauphin and then went to Orléans. She brought new courage and high morale to the French soldiers and citizens. She led them in battles against the English forts surrounding the city. With her inspiration, on May 8, 1429, the English were forced to lift the siege. This victory was a major turning point in the war. After the triumph at Orléans, the French army, with Joan of Arc, continued their fight. They quickly recaptured more English-held castles along the Loire River, including Jargeau, Beaugency, and Meung. Then, on June 18, 1429, the French won another significant battle at Patay. French heavy cavalry surprised and defeated the English longbowmen in open battle. This victory showed that the English army was not invincible on the field. Soon after, Charles VII was formally crowned King of France in Reims Cathedral, with Joan standing proudly by his side. 8. The final battles. France continued its victories after Joan of Arc's work. Charles VII's armies pushed the English from many areas. In 1449, the French began to take back Normandy. Rouen and other cities fell quickly. By 1450, almost all of Normandy was French again. A key battle happened at Formigny in 1450. English soldiers under Sir Thomas Carriel met French forces. French cannons were very important, surprising the English. Attacked from two sides, the English lost greatly, ending their hopes in Normandy. Next, the French went to Gascony. This land was English for centuries, but French taxes upset people. In 1451, French armies took many towns. Bordeaux surrendered. The English, led by John Talbot, retook Bordeaux in 1452. The final major battle was at Castillon in 1453. French cannons were decisive again. Artillery master Jean Bureau built a strong camp with many guns. Talbot attacked this camp, but French cannons caused heavy losses. Talbot died, and his army was destroyed. This defeat ended the 100 Years' War. By October 1453, Bordeaux fell for the last time. England lost nearly all its land in France, keeping only Calais. The war fostered stronger national identities in both England and France. What do you think was the most important battle for France to win the war?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.